In the silent waters of the Arctic Ocean, something enormous moves beneath the drifting ice. At first, it looks like a piece of the seafloor itself, rough, pale, and strangely textured. But then it shifts. Barnacles scrape against each other. Clusters of tiny shells clatter softly like loose stones. And suddenly, something begins to emerge from between them. Thin, writhing shapes. Hundreds of worms, slowly spilling out and drifting into the icy water. The giant creature exhales, sending a cloud of life into the sea. This is not a rock. It's a walrus. And what's happening on its skin is one of the Arctic's strangest and least understood biological partnerships. The Arctic Ocean is one of the harshest environments on Earth. Temperatures plunge below freezing. Sunlight disappears for months. And food can be incredibly scarce. Yet life here has evolved in ways that feel almost alien. Beneath the floating ice, ecosystems depend on brief bursts of productivity. Short summers when microscopic algae bloom and feed entire food chains. From tiny plankton to massive marine mammals, everything is connected. And few animals embody this frozen world better than the walrus. The species known as Odobenus rosmarus can weigh more than 1,500 kilograms. With tusks nearly a meter long and thick wrinkled skin, walruses spend most of their lives diving along the seafloor, searching for clams buried in the mud. But sometimes, their slow-moving lives create an unexpected opportunity for other organisms. Walrus skin is thick, often several centimeters deep, and covered in folds that trap water, microorganisms, and debris. For most animals, this would simply be protection. But in the ocean, any stable surface can become a home, especially for barnacles. One of the most common species found attached to marine mammals is Balanus balanus. Barnacles begin life as microscopic larvae drifting through the water. Eventually, they must settle somewhere permanent. A rock, a ship, or sometimes the back of a living animal. Once attached, they secrete a powerful natural cement and begin building a shell around themselves. Over time, entire clusters can form. On whales, barnacles can cover vast areas of skin. But on walruses, scientists occasionally observe something even stranger. Barnacles forming thick, irregular crusts across the animal's body. And within those clusters, life begins to grow. Each barnacle is not just a shell. Inside, a tiny creature extends feathery legs called cirri, sweeping the water for plankton. But the rough surfaces between them create hiding places for other organisms. Tiny crustaceans, microscopic algae, and sometimes marine worms. Many of these worms belong to a group called polychaetes, segmented marine worms that thrive in extreme environments. One species frequently found in cold northern waters is Polydora ciliata. These worms are master burrowers. They drill into shells and sediments, creating tiny tunnels where they live and feed. In dense barnacle clusters, those tunnels can form entire labyrinths. To a drifting worm larva, the shell-covered back of a walrus might look exactly like a rocky reef. And once inside, they multiply, slowly, silently, until something unusual begins to happen. When a walrus surfaces to breathe or shakes its massive body, water rushes through the maze of shells covering its skin. That sudden current can flush organisms out of the barnacle colonies. Observers have reported clouds of tiny worms suddenly pouring into the water. Dozens, sometimes hundreds at once. For a moment, the walrus appears to be spewing worms. But the animal itself isn't producing them. It's simply carrying an entire miniature ecosystem on its back. A drifting island of life. Yet this raises a deeper question. Why does this happen so rarely? After all, walruses move constantly, diving hundreds of meters and scraping across the seafloor. Most barnacles would struggle to survive such rough conditions. So how do these colonies persist? Scientists still don't fully know. One theory lies in the walrus's unusual lifestyle. Unlike many whales that travel long distances at high speeds, walruses often move slowly and rest on ice floes for hours at a time. Their thick skin also regenerates rapidly, shedding parasites and scars. But in sheltered folds, especially along the back and shoulders, barnacles may survive long enough to establish colonies. Another possibility is temperature. The Arctic is so cold that biological growth happens slowly. This means barnacle clusters may remain stable for years. And in that time, worms, microbes, and tiny crustaceans can turn them into complex communities. A moving reef, carried across the ocean by a living giant. Yet scientists have documented these ecosystems only rarely, which raises another mystery. Are we simply missing them? The Arctic Ocean remains one of the least explored regions on Earth. See ice blocks, research vessels. Long winters limit visibility, and many marine animals spend most of their lives far from human observation. Even enormous creatures like walruses disappear beneath the ice for hours at a time. When they resurface, they may carry entire biological worlds that scientists never see. Temporary ecosystems forming and dissolving in the darkness below. What we've discovered so far only hints at how complex these interactions might be. A walrus covered in barnacles. Barnacles filled with worms. Worms drifting into the sea to begin new lives. Each layer connected to the next. This strange phenomenon reveals something profound about the ocean. In extreme environments, survival often depends on unexpected partnerships. Creatures become habitats. Habitats become ecosystems. And even the largest animals can quietly host entire communities of smaller life. But we still don't know how common these mobile ecosystems really are. Are walruses unique? Or could whales, seals, and other giants also carry hidden worlds across the oceans? Every new observation seems to raise more questions than answers. And that may be the most fascinating part. The Arctic feels empty from above. Endless ice, silent water. But beneath that frozen surface, life is layered in ways we're only beginning to understand. A walrus dives through the darkness. Barnacles cling to its skin. Worms hide within the shells. And somewhere in the drifting current, tiny larvae search for their next home. Another rock, another reef, or perhaps another giant. Because in the ocean's deepest mysteries, even the largest creatures may simply be landscapes. And we've only just begun to explore th.